Good morning and welcome to day 16 of the 30-day Speaking to Camera Challenge. I'm Ryan and it's fantastic to have you here with me today. Today I am going to be covering some of the events that happened over the weekend and then looking at some of the lessons learned through that process. So, as I've expressed before, I am more of an introvert than an extrovert. I generally like to have my alone time, have some time to have a time out from the rest of the world and embark on some form of escapism. This weekend, or the last 5 days, if we're going to it, haven't really allowed for that, which I think has kind of been part of the reason for me being a little bit more tired than usual. So I just want to go into some of that. My experience with alcohol over the last few days as well, and kind of where that's led me in terms of a mind space, which is obviously a sudden shift, some unexpected shift, I would say. So I think on Thursday, Friday morning, I mentioned our staff party, all our reps coming down. It really was fantastic to spend time with them, just reconnect. Unfortunately, it's one thing that only happens probably once every year at the moment. But at the same time, when we do get together, it does tend to get a little bit festive. We went out dancing, had an absolutely fantastic time. And following that, we went on to our staff party the next day, which we played old man's bowls or garden bowls, which was really an awesome experience. It's kind of the second time I've actually done it now, and each time it's just been amazing. It's one of those that really tends to just allow for, I suppose it's a little bit of cooperation, a little bit of competitiveness. It's just one where everyone eventually just seems to let loose and enjoy it. It's one where you don't feel bad about having one bad ball because, again, there's enough that it's kind of happening to get you through all of it. Yeah, following that was obviously an exceptionally busy one, amazing spit fry, awesome food. It came back again, had something else that evening, and it just basically flowed into that. Saturday was very much the same. Ended up having a party this side before going away for the weekend or for the night. And eventually got to yesterday, where part of me just felt completely broken. It was just, despite that amazing night away, and we went out to Tin Swallow at Boulders, which was phenomenal. Honestly, one of the nicer hotels I've stayed at in a long time. They're definitely up there with the likes of your Pinders, and I actually can't think of anything else that's kind of ranking up there for me. Spear was fantastic as well, but not necessarily quite on the same, or of the same caliber. Well, still fantastic. It just is, it's different. I think just being there, the amazing setting of right over Boulders Beach, so looking down, gazing down on all the penguins. See if I can add some footage in here. Yeah, really was remarkable. But at the same time, I think it led me to a state of being, or seeing within myself, almost that exhaustion and the higher than usual consumption of alcohol, almost leading to increased levels of anxiety, to just slightly decreased motivation, to everything just being a little bit harder than it should be. And it's not as though I was experiencing anything the likes of the hangover. It was just I could feel that my gut wasn't quite what it was usually, so it was kind of like a slight discomfort. And it's something I have experienced in the past with higher intake of alcohol. So I think usually it's one of those where I don't usually have very much at all. It's probably 1 or 2 drinks a week. So to suddenly increase that to multiple functions where drinks are generally flowing does tend to change that quite significantly and can act as a bit of a shock to the system. But it got me thinking about our dependency on a lot of things like that in society. And quite often I think it's things that don't really serve us, but are almost just habitual in terms of the way we operate with them. It's something along the lines of when we were in a social situation, things like cigarettes and drinks become very commonplace. Obviously, depending on the crowd, there are other crowds where things like your low level drugs and the likes do tend to appear more prevalently as well. But the more I think about it, the more I start to think that all of that just acts as a bit of a vice. It's just a means of escaping your life. But quite often you don't necessarily enjoy it to the same degree as you would otherwise. It's a means of coping with some form of deficit within yourself. And quite often I think it's just we haven't tried to overcome the challenges in our own lives. We haven't made the conscious effort to develop those skills, whether it be social skills, whether it be coping with higher levels of anxiety. And sometimes, again, I think it is just habitual. It's not something that we really think about. It's just kind of this is what you do. Which to me is just very interesting in terms of the way we, again, engage with that. And the way we almost don't see the consequences of that. Like, don't get me wrong, alcohol definitely has its purpose, and I think for a lot of people it does act as a social lubricant. It does allow them to do things they wouldn't otherwise, but at the same time, I think if you put in the time and effort, you would be able to achieve the same results for a longer term without any of the negative benefits that you have to deal with alcohol and weed and the likes. Yet in society, we often don't look at that as a potential avenue of dealing with it. Instead, we just look at the escape and normalize it. Which maybe is a bit of an indictment of the society we live in at the moment. Maybe it is one where we as a people are a little bit soft. We're unwilling to put in the work and effort and say, you know what, let me go and tackle this, get over it, and move past it. Instead, we just say, okay, well, let me just medicate. And whether it be self-medication or looking at prescription medication, I think it's one that we do fall to possibly a little bit more regularly than we should. And again, when you look at both of those, I think both do have their place. And I, for one, have utilized medication in the past in order to get through very difficult times. But so long as it's a means to get through the difficult times and not just something that you then rely on indefinitely. And I think that's where I have a bit of an issue at the moment, is we just have that almost reliance on these things without ever really delving in and attempting to solve them. And these challenges aren't insurmountable. It's not as though we're looking at achieving world peace or fixing every issue within the environmental sphere. It's literally looking within yourself and saying, this is something that I note a deficit within myself, or a weakness, or something that I could be. This is the person I would like to be, and this is achievable. And it's achievable within a fairly short time frame. Again, looking at this course, we're what, 15 days into it. And I can already see huge progress in terms of most of it. Looking at the social sphere as well, I don't see that any differently than this. To me, an ability to speak to a camera or just engage with an audience and say, well, I'm willing to put myself out there. Really, what's the worst that could happen? Is a fantastic starting point. Obviously, with anything, it takes practice, the same as if you're looking at the social sphere and being able to just take that really just engaging with people fully. So this might be something that I look at a little bit more comprehensively in the future. It's something we're obviously just grappling with at the moment. It's one thing where I think I might take a little bit of a break from alcohol for a little while, for the next month or two, and just see and watch that space. To me, I think there are I think there's a lot of literature out there that kind of looks at the relationship between anxiety and alcohol, and almost one of those where we utilize alcohol to make ourselves less anxious. However, the impact that has on our gut and everything increases our anxiety levels further, in which case we're more dependent on alcohol in order to solve this, and it becomes again this loop, which again I don't think really serves us. But I think all of this and everything I'm grappling with at the moment really makes humanity quite fascinating in terms of the way we operate. The fact that we're always eager to solve large, complex problems, but never eager to solve simple problems within ourselves that require sacrifice. And I think with everything there is an element of sacrifice. And you're saying, well, either I can do this or I can do that. It's not achievable to do both. And if we look at our days or just our time in general, everything comes down to that. It's how will I spend my next hour? Will I do this, which is hard, or this, which is easy? And so often we do take the easier path, knowing full well that this path would lead to greatness or lead to great things in the future. But with that, I'm going to call it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. There was a little bit more of a rambly one, just in terms of me having a dialogue in terms of my current thoughts on the matter. So very curious to get your perspectives. So if you want to leave those in the comments, please do. Otherwise, have an absolutely spectacular one, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.